In this video, we'll be investigating different perspectives on two questions. First of all, to what extent do objective morals exist? And secondly, if objective morals do exist, then do they provide evidence for the existence of God? The moral argument for God's existence is as follows. The first premise is that if God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties do not exist. The second premise is that objective moral values and duties do exist, the conclusion therefore being that God must exist. The first perspective on the existence of objective morals is moral realism, the view that says there exist such things as moral facts or moral values, and that these exist independent of our perception of them or our attitude towards them. Across most standards of human civilization and cultures, we experience basic standards of morality. That is to say, that there exists a basic human intuition that distinguishes between things that are morally right and wrong. From an early age, we are taught to share, to be kind to others, and that crimes are wrong. When we are taught these things, we don't question what our parents mean as good. Indeed, we take it perfectly for granted that some things are simply good and some things are bad. These values are presented as fact, rather than just the opinions of our society. Moral realism says that there exists a universal truth outside of human beings that exists within our world that we experience. Most or all people recognise that murder is wrong, even if some people think that it isn't wrong. Similarly, the fact that we can comprehend the existence of objective morality proves that objective morals do exist.
There exists a number of different perspectives of morality that do not take it as objective. Firstly, many believe that a state of moral relativism exists. Moral relativism is the view that moral judgments are true or false only relative to one particular standpoint, to say that moral viewpoints are subjective, and that therefore there can be multiple correct viewpoints to a particular moral issue. The Greek historian Herodotus observed that each society and each culture regards its belief as a way of doing things better than other systems. The Finnish philosopher Edward Westermarck ranks as one of the first to formulate a detailed theory of moral relativism. He portrayed all moral ideas as subjective judgments that reflect one's upbringing. Many philosophers argue that human morality is part of evolution, citing the fact that other animals also exhibit actions that adhere to a moral code. They also argued that this makes logical sense, as morality leads to a more constructive society that would be more likely to survive. The second argument to say that objective morality does not exist is a belief of moral nihilism. That is to say, that ethical claims are neither good nor bad because there are no universal moral truths. This position differs to moral relativism, as moral relativism allows for moral statements to be true or false in a non-objective sense.
Those who say objective morals provide evidence for the existence of God say that without God as an objective reference for what is right and wrong, then moral values are simply individuals' opinions. Any objective values have to have some foundation outside of humanity to serve as a standard upon which we can make our decisions and which we can take our beliefs from. Ultimately, there is no other universal objective reference point which we can use as a standard for us, and therefore any objective morality must be the result of God.
The argument that even if objective morals exist, but it doesn't provide evidence of God, begins with that all moral theories rest on certain assumptions that cannot be independently proved. For example, theological morality is based on the assumption that what God wills or commands is good, but there is no way to independently prove that. This is no different to utilitarianism, which relies upon the assumption that pain is bad and pleasure is good. Ultimately, if we're willing to make assumptions under the theological argument, then we can make those same assumptions on other moral theories, and then they are just as reasonable